this hearing. Thanks to all three of you for being here. Also, having worked with all three of you, thanks for what you're doing on behalf of farmers. I appreciate it. We've come to you and asked for help, and it hasn't always been exactly what we want, but you're working hard and trying to work on these things with us. That matters. Even if we don't get exactly what we want, which of course we never do, if you're working and you help us and we make some progress, it makes a huge difference. And you've all done that. And so we appreciate that as we go into the Farm Bill. That attitude and that willingness to work together is incredibly important. So I want to express my appreciation up front for that approach. Secretary Bonnie, you were out recently working on a number of things. And in terms of the sugar program, it's incredibly important that we enforce those TRQs. I think it was good you got a better understanding of the sugar program while you're out there. Are you committed to continuing to do that like we discussed?
Yes.
And then the crop insurance, if we do in the Farm Bill the best possible job on the Farm Bill and on the countercyclical safety net, ARC and PLC, we put ourselves in a position to reduce the need for ad hoc disaster packages. Are you committed to working with us to make the crop insurance and the safety net as strong as possible? Because, and with flexibility, and if we do that well, we make a huge difference for the next 5 years, not just for our farmers and ranchers. And of course, everybody benefits, every American benefits every single day from the highest quality, lowest cost food supply that our farmers and ranchers provide. So we're doing something for every single American. If we do a good job on that, so we're, our farmers, and it's the most cost-effective way to do it as well, so we're not having to do more of these ad hoc disaster packages. I'd ask that question, are all three of you committed to those two priorities in the Farm Bill?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Zach. And then, Secretary Bonnie, the ERP, WHIP Plus ERP has been really helpful, and ELRP for the livestock, Zach, Administrator, thank you to you as well. But your second iteration is not working as well as ERP1. Both are WHIP Plus based. That's the underlying legislation, which we work to pass. But you need, version 2 needs some work. We need to adhere more to version 1 based on what the feedback we're getting from the farmers.
Yeah, so I mentioned this earlier, and I'll turn it over to Zach in a second. Our approach on ERP2 is to make sure we get those producers who didn't have access to crop insurance, didn't have access to NAP, and we think that revenue-based approach does that. We think it'll bring in new customers. So noted early, if there's resources left over for a shallow loss program, which I think some of the concerns that we're hearing are talking about, we're happy to look at that. But we think this approach allows us to get more producers in.
Well, I understand that, and I understand there's some funding issues, the dollars relative to the need in WHIP 2, but we're getting a lot more pushback versus, so I just want to report that to you. I mean, you all call it ERP now, but it's all WHIP Plus, but, it's fine. But we need to work. We need to do some more back and forth work on that, I think. And I get it. I get some of the constraints in version 2 that you're. And I did talk to Secretary about it as well. Commissioner Ducheneau, again, big thanks to you on our livestock programs, and your willingness to work together has been really good. What improvements do we need to make for our? I mean, I have some ideas as far as we need to take some of these programs that we have for livestock, whether it's LIP, ELAP, a number of them, and also in the Farm Bill, figure out how we strengthen them, enhance them, put some flexibility in them, update them for current times. Same thing, it will reduce the need for disaster assistance down the line. That helps our ranchers, that helps the taxpayers. So what are your thoughts there in terms of what we can do as far as strengthening those programs?
Well, one of the things we hear from stakeholders when we go around the country, sir, and we heard it in North Dakota during the drought tour, is our livestock programs lag behind our crop programs a little bit just by virtue of being newer. So there's room to evolve. We really appreciate, you mentioned earlier, the flexibility that we're offered, because that lets us find that solution in a more timely manner. And it's enabled us to work closely with your staff, for instance, on ELAP to address that, the length of the hauls that our producers were having to make to mitigate drought impacts. So that flexibility in the programs is every bit as important. Another of the strength of those programs is they're funded through the CCC, which allows us to, again, make more timely decisions.
Right, and we work with that on Ag Approach, so I appreciate that. And Senator Tester and I have some legislation that will help in this area as well, bipartisan legislation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks to all of you. We've covered a lot of ground today. These Farm Bill investments, we know, are